The DHS memo on what are they going to do about Title 42. It has finally come out, and I looked at this. I read it's about 20 or so pages, read through it this morning. Just to be clear, Joe Manchin is a Democrat, a centrist, conservative Democrat, if that's a thing, but he's a Democrat. Here's what he says about Title 42 going away, just to give a sense of what the middle of the country thinks. Go ahead.
We need an immigration policy. We truly do. And 42 should not be done away with until we get an immigration policy or until the CDC basically says we do not have a health crisis. And with a health crisis, we can't take any more chance of people coming undocumented and unchecked. And that's all. It's very simple. We truly have a crisis on our hands. The border is a crisis, and we've got to address that. We had a 2013 immigration bill that was very good for our country, that it gave people a pathway to citizenship. It treated everyone fairly, but made sure that we screen people properly. We have to secure our borders. Our borders are not secure. They need to be secured.
He's partially right and partially wrong. He's right that the border's a crisis and it's not secure. He's wrong that the 2013 bill was a good bill and that amnesty and the pathway, it's not a pathway to citizenship, it's a conveyor belt. And if you go back and look even at the Reagan amnesty of the 80s, you'll see everybody got the amnesty. It was all the rest of the stuff that didn't actually happen. But that's something we can talk more about another time. Clay, here's what they're doing. They're surging resources, 600 Border Patrol personnel, and they're going to be making the process, the actual processing of people, more efficient. In fact, they have a term that they use in this that I thought was particularly interesting. Expeditious adjudication. Expeditious adjudication. This comes under the Asylum Office rule. This is all under DHS official guidance. They're going to move this. We already know, right? We got over 1 million people the last 6 months coming to the country. About 40% of them free and clear into the United States. They're never going to get deported unless they become violent felons or members of MS-13 and assassinate people, etc. They're going to be able to stay here forever. So some people are turned back, mostly under Title 42. They're getting rid of Title 42, and the response that they are going to have now is to put more people at the border, including the acceleration of hearing of asylum claims under this Asylum Office rule, so that now you'll just have bureaucrats who aren't judges who are like, all right, you know what? I guess you get asylum. They're going to make it easier for people to come into the... They're doing the exact wrong thing if they wanted a secure border, if they wanted the illegal immigration flow to stop.
And we already know that the conversation about Title 42 ending, even though Joe Biden doesn't even seem to know what Title 42 is when he was questioned about it last week, when you hear immigrants who are being interviewed, people who are trying to illegally enter this country, when you hear them interviewed, they are all talking about Title 42 and how it's going to make it easier to come into this country, which is why we're going to see a surge the likes of which we've probably never seen in the history of this country at the southern border within about a month. The other thing here that I think is significant, Buck, and it's part of a larger picture, Joe Biden is consistently taking actions that would not be supported by Congress, even though he has a majority in the House and the Senate. And let me explain what I mean by that. If you remember with the airplane mask mandate, a ton of senators broke from the Democratic Party, a ton relative to these sort of bipolar times that we live in right now. And 7 Democratic senators, or 8, I believe, broke with the mask mandate on airplanes and voted against it. Same thing happened with the fact that Biden could have never gotten the eviction moratorium passed through Congress. Congress, in fact, was opposed to it. Title 42 is the same, Buck. If Joe Biden tried to get this ending of Title 42 through the Senate and the House, it wouldn't pass. So he is engaging in, in my opinion, unconstitutional actions and basically daring the courts to strike down these decisions because the legislature would not support him in implementing these new regulations. And so he's trying to rely on the power of the presidency to, frankly, an unprecedented level, even, and this is significant, even while his party has control of Congress, which in theory would mean they would be more likely to actually support the Biden regime. This thing wouldn't pass. Overwhelming numbers of Democrats would join Republicans and shoot it down, particularly in the Senate, where you may be able to get 60 votes, a filibuster-proof majority against ending Title 42.
It's amazing, Clay, when you read the DHS guidance. Remember, this is a memo to the rest of the federal government to let them know what the Biden policy is, right? So this is the template for how it's going to go. There's all this language about we're going to be very strict on our immigration laws. It's just laughable. It's not true. Anybody who works in Border Patrol would say that that's absurd. We've seen, remember the video we played here of members of Border Patrol almost in a kind of mutiny moment against the chief of Border Patrol, because he's saying, look, we're trying, the Biden administration, we're doing what we can with what we have. And they're just saying, this is a joke, man. We can't do our jobs. People are flooding in from all over the place. You look at them, you look at the numbers, you look at what they're saying in the memo, and they'll claim, oh, well, we're repatriating a lot of people. 30% of the apprehensions they have are repeat. They don't even say how many times. Repeat entrants, meaning people that tried to come in illegally, were turned back, and are coming in illegally again. Because the whole game is you only got to get in once, right? You only got to get in one time, and then you're here. Another part of it that I think is fascinating when you dig deeper into the numbers is how many people, once they're here, even show up for their immigration hearing. It's like 50%.
Yeah.
How many of the people that they're telling us are getting into the country every month, it doesn't even include the got-away number, which is those are people free and clear in the U.S., violation of U.S. law, just run the U.S. Clay, they say it's tens of thousands. I had one guy tell me he thinks they've got about 100,000 gotaways a month getting into the country in a bad month. I mean, the thing's a total mess. The Biden administration is living in fantasy land. We're going to have a secure border. We're going to be strict on the laws. It's like a joke, but it's unfunny. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
The question that I have, Buck, is you know that the media is obsessively covering the Ukraine border. Everybody is obsessed with Russia invading Ukraine. We've got an invasion going on our southern border, and in a month, it is going to be more of an invasion than we have ever seen in terms of raw numbers. Will that lead? This is just a question that I'm curious about. Will that lead anybody other than Fox News to cover it? Will there be CNN reporters at the border? Will there be MSNBC reporters at the border? Will the Washington Post, the New York Times, will any of these places do it? And I suggested this to Fox News, where I'm employed, obviously, as a part of Outkick's purchase. I said, hey, we need to put a tracker, since trackers are such big deals, in the corner of our screen for the numbers of illegals that are coming across every day. Just like they had the COVID infections, I really think if Fox News, and the challenge is getting accurate enough data to be able to do it, but if Fox News was willing in the corner of their screen to put in a daily tracker of illegal immigrants coming across the southern border, I think it would become almost impossible for the rest of media to ignore as well.
I would also just tell everybody that it's so important that we continue to talk about this and that there's an awareness of it, because I think the Democrats are planning to largely try to hide the visuals of the flow when Title 42 expires. That's why they're surging people not to stop. I mean, the fundamental problem is the Democrats don't want to stop illegal immigration. They don't want to be held responsible for illegal immigration by voters. That's a different thing, right? The Democrat Party is not opposed to illegal immigration ideologically. We all know it. And so I think you have to change that component of it. You have to change that. And also at a time when people are struggling, to pay for gas, for groceries. They're realizing that things are rough right now, 8.5% inflation. Democrats are always pushing for not just some free stuff, as much free stuff for illegal immigrants as possible. So people are coming to the country in violation of law, not paying any taxes, just coming in here, doing whatever they want to do, and they're supposed to get in-state tuition, Obamacare, you name it. Go down the list, everything, right? Free housing, free food. People realize at some level, and all across the board, Latino Americans, Black Americans, white Americans, everyone realizes that the systematic violation of our laws and really theft from the American taxpayer that's occurring here is a problem. And I think that's going to be an issue for them.
And it's going to be worse than it's ever been before during the course of the next month and into the summer.
Everyone expects it to be. That's even the Democrats. No one who pays attention, Clay, thinks anything other than that. So we'll have to see. We will follow it closely here, I assure you.